Hey guys, welcome back. I cannot be more excited to be here with the incredible hypnotist Richard Barker again this week. Thank you for being here, Richard.
Welcome.
And we're going to talk a little bit about being suave and incorporating that suave mentality into our lives. So you said last week that you studied a lot of NLP and that you want to kind of talk to these guys about using those kind of techniques to incorporate into your everyday life so that you can really project that image of being a suave person. So walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, so if you want to be intelligent about your use of language, why not have it predetermined and have what I call little speech sound bites? So in other words, if you're in scenarios, depending on what you're doing, if you've already rehearsed what you're going to say, then that would be much better than trying to think on your feet in certain scenarios.
Right.
So I have like different bursts of language that I use that I know is effective. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I've just met you for the first time. I think you're pretty cute, and I want to take you down the road of nodding your head to go on a date with me, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I would use as a tactic is some of my sound bursts that I know that I need to get you nodding your head because I need you in the agreeable state. And hypnosis can easily get you into an agreeable state. And what that is, for example, as you look outside, you'll realize it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, it's an undeniable truth. And you'll understand that the more the sun shines, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the more you see the sun, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, because most people love the sun. There's sun worshippers, most people. But so you have to pick out, what. But basically, you want to get somebody into an agreeable state. And then you just stop talking and you get the other person to talk. So you would understand that if I was to ask you on a date, you might be considering it at this point, right? Just considering it. So give me some of the obstacles that would prevent you from going on a date with me, and then pause. You see, the only answer is that they're going to try and what they're going to do is remove their own barriers and their own obstacles themselves. You don't have to do it. And the reason for this is nobody likes to be sold to. So I'm not selling you anything. I'm just sowing the seed of an idea,
Right.
And I'm having you do all the hard work.
Well, it's the concept of letting someone else make the decision, right? It's getting compliance in a really subtle way without being forceful or pushing your own agenda so much as letting them come to their own conclusions.
Right. And for example, nobody likes to be sold to, therefore you're not going to sell them, whether it's yourself, a product, or something else. So you've got to give them the information that they need to then be able to make their own decisions one way or the other.
That's awesome. So how do we work this into everyday language? Because this is something that takes a lot of thought, and being that conscious in conversation all the time is just exhausting, if I'm totally honest.
I find it the opposite. It's much more relaxing, actually, because once you understand what these sound bites are in a given situation, you can default back to one of them. You just select it from your memory bank, which is in the subconscious mind. So now, rather than approaching somebody with a pickup line, let's say, and trying to work out what you're going to say and plucking up the courage, you can say something based on the knowledge that you know that 80 to 90% of the time it always works. So now you don't feel so flustered or lacking in confidence. I'll give you another quick example. So I fly a lot on a major airline here in the US, and so one of my aims is to always make sure I fly in first class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to dress like a first class person. I'm not going to wear sweatpants and all that jeans when I'm flying. I'm going to look like I belong in the country club. I belong in first class. I'll go to the gate agent and I'll say to the agent, hey, look at my boarding pass. This is not my usual seat. So the agent can only say, really, what's your normal seat? Well, of course, with a big smile on your face, my normal seat is rows 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, this isn't my normal seat. This says 13F. Do you have the power right now, and are you willing to work with me to be able to change that seat? You see, if you use the word willing, and are you able to, it does two things. One is it puffs their chest out because they want to prove to you that they have the power.
Right.
Two, most people want to prove they're willing to be able to work with you. Mm-hmm. And the least path of resistance, rather than argue with you, is to actually just put you in row 1 through 5 if a seat is available.
Right.
So if you have that language pattern and you're dressed accordingly, you can pretty much get whatever you want.
That's incredible. So how do you come up with these sound bites? Because that's where the real work goes in, right? It's deciding what works for you and what doesn't, and what you're comfortable with in what areas of life. So how do you even create that?
Yeah, I've been testing different things that work for me for the last 20 years, but things that generically can be used for something else. So if I go to a restaurant and I don't like the seat that they're going to give me, more often than not, I'll say, hey man, this is awesome, but are you willing to give me the seat by the window? Mm-hmm. Because I don't like sitting over there. It's not my normal seat. Right. And I practice on other people, servers, people that I come, into contact with, because I can practice my language on them and they have no idea what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. But in essence, I'm rehearsing and I'm furthering my life.
So you start in the areas where it doesn't matter so much and then work up to the really more stressful situations that could become stressful situations.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. So, depending on who your audience is, if somebody there is selling a product, if somebody is in sales, most people are in a sales capacity somehow, whether it's a product or a service.
Or customer service, right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, somehow. Then you would use some phraseology that would be embedded commands, and that is hypnosis. So, for example, an embedded command would be, by now you can see the benefits of doing business with me. You can understand, 1, 2, and 3. By now you'll realize that you need to take action because we love action takers. So simply pull out your credit card, go ahead and make the transaction, and let's work together. It's just phraseology that I'm actually embedding the commands of by now. Mm-hmm. Take action.
And then earlier you said, this is not my usual XYZ, and you've said that a few times. So
yes.
It is really just pushing that persona of the things that I want. I'm going to tell myself that is the normal for me. That Absolutely. If I want to fly first class all the time, I tell myself, no, First class is normal. First class isn't an upgrade. First class isn't special. That's my everyday normal.
And here's the reason, because in my mind, I've convinced myself it would be an absolute injustice and it would absolutely be a travesty if I didn't have the ability to be able to fly first class and talk to the person sitting next to me who just might enjoy my products or my services.
Right. You're missing out opportunities.
Of course. It's like, if somebody doesn't know whether they should buy my products or not, and I don't have the opportunity to tell you how wonderful my products are, it would be an injustice, and I would be mortified if you didn't get a chance to experience whatever it is I've got.
I love it. So I have to ask you, have you always had this level of confidence, or is this something that you trained yourself to have? Because having the gonads to walk up to a flight attendant or a person at the airport and say, hey, this isn't normal for me. This is really out of my custom. Can you help me? Are you willing to help me? Where does that confidence come from?
It comes with having an approach that I use called the wrongness approach. And it's wrongless. In other words, I'm never wrong, because it's and don't confuse it with arrogance, because it's not. But the wrongless approach is I can't possibly be wrong, and it would be a disservice to myself if I didn't sit where I know that I belong.
Right.
Therefore, I don't feel that I need the confidence or lack of confidence to speak to somebody about the seat that I'm in or the table that I've got at the restaurant, or because it's an injustice if I didn't. So I program myself to believe that, and I do believe it. I do believe that if I come into contact with somebody, I'm going to somehow enrich and improve their life. Therefore, I need to be sitting next to my congregation, in inverted brackets. My congregation are those people that I know that I want to do business with. Mm-hmm. And I have this thing in my mind, who is my ideal person? And I call that person my action character. So if I had like a Barbie doll or a Ken, or, and I was to kind of paint the picture of my ideal person I want to do business with as a business owner, where are they sitting? Well, they're not sitting in the back of the bus.
Right.
So that's why I need to push myself along.
So it sounds really like self-worth. It's just realizing what you want and that you do deserve to have it, and you shouldn't necessarily prevent yourself from having it, and do what you can to accomplish that.
Yeah, and self-worth is so important because a lot of people out there just don't have that self-worth, and without the self-worth they don't have the confidence, and without that they're like a shrinking violet, or they're in the background like a piece of wallpaper. And for those people I would say, well, all self-worth happens with your own thoughts.
Right.
So instead of looking at yourself depressed, look at yourself and look at all the beautiful things, because when they made you, they threw away the mold. I mean, you're a one-of-a-kind individual. So pick the first 5 things that you're fantastic about or for. What is it about your character that is phenomenal, and then build on that and the rest will follow. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, that's so important, because I think a lot of people get into something like learning hypnosis to help that self-worth, and so many people want to improve that aspect of their life and don't know where to begin. And I think you're absolutely right. It does begin with just appreciating the good things about yourself, focusing on the positive, not necessarily dwelling on the negative or worrying about it, or worrying about people's interpretation of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just create an image of yourself and almost transpose it outside of yourself, and look at that image and how cool it is, and then just write it down. Because what's interesting is people that are lacking confidence or self-respect, they don't realize just how wonderful they actually are, because they can't see themselves like that. It's almost like people are so busy these days and on their cell phones and on all this, that they don't take time to stand still and just look at a self-reflection of themselves. They just get downtrodden in a constant running river, And I would say just stand still for a moment, look at the reflection in the still water, write down the first 5 things that come into your mind that deep down to be good about yourself, and go ahead and self-promote, become your own advocate and promote those ideas.
I cannot agree with you more. Absolutely. And I'm guilty of it. And I think a lot of people, they see me dressed like this, and they see me in front of the camera with the stage presence, but don't realize that this is my film persona. I have a stage persona when I teach seminars. And then everyday life, I can go literally 3 days without looking in the mirror and not realize that I haven't looked in the mirror once.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I look like. I don't know. And it's just, I don't give myself often enough time to really connect with myself and to really appreciate who I am. And I think that's something else that's important, is giving yourself time to heal, to rest, to care for yourself. That a lot of people don't do. A lot of people are so busy with work and with family and stress and everything else. You don't give yourself the time that you really need to appreciate who you are.
Yeah, and also reciprocation. So the power of reciprocation is huge. So if you've done something good, or you're happy with something that you did, go ahead and reciprocate and reward yourself. And we don't do enough of that. We don't celebrate our successes. We're too busy trying to get the success that we don't celebrate the success we just had. And this is why I'm not liking the sort of typical sort of weight loss and that kind of stuff, because people have to weigh themselves in, and then they get depressed when actually they gain weight instead of lost it, and they feel useless. And what I would say is, every small victory is a step to the next celebration, and the power of reciprocation. Make sure you reward yourself. If you have an aim of getting upgraded from seat 1 through 5 and you actually get it, then because of the power of language, man, that's a huge celebration right there that you should be proud of.
Yeah.
And go ahead and reciprocate yourself.
Get a glass of wine on that first class seat.
Definitely.
That's awesome. This is so important. I cannot stress the importance of really having self-worth. And I think if you are going to try and project that persona of being confident, being suave with your words, and communicating with people in a really easy way, you have to first be very comfortable with yourself and with your language before you put that on other people. It's almost a danger if you aren't comfortable enough with yourself.
I came across something the other day, and it was Desert Storm, the first Gulf War. The General Norman Storman, for those that remember, Schwarzkopf, he led the entire coalition into Iraq. And one thing he was asked was, what is the most important thing for all your soldiers and the troops on the ground? And he said it's most important that they have shiny shoes. Even my soldiers, he said, because shiny shoes wins wars. And when he was asked a bit further, it was understood that, if his soldiers all have shiny boots at all times, then obviously they're going to have the discipline to win the war and have self-respect that they always have shiny shoes.
Right.
So I would take a look at what you're deciding to wear, next time you go out and become a power animal or become some persona that you need to achieve, and take a look at your watch, take a look at your shoes,
Right.
and take a look at the first 3 seconds of yourself in the mirror and just tweak. Do some adjustments, get some nice shoes, get a nice watch, and feel good about yourself.
Grooming is so important.
Yeah.
Go see the barber or hairstylist or whatever. Get your nails done. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better every time.
And dress the part. I mean,
Right.
before this interview, I was in my pajamas, and I thought, well, I can't pull that off.
You could be in pajamas now, and I wouldn't know. So.
I could be.
All right, well, thank you for joining us again this week. And I'm really excited because I'm going to have you back next week, and I want to talk about situational things that may come up and emergency tactics that we can use if we're really not in the persona that we want to be in. So thank you for being here, and I'm excited. And you guys, I will see you again very soon.